It is raining outside your window right now, in your mind, and you are stuck indoors with nothing to do. Your phone is in your hand before you even decide to pick it up. Your thumb starts scrolling before your brain gives permission. This feels like a modern problem, a phone-era problem, a boredom problem invented by screens. But the real answer is far stranger, long before phones, long before roofs, before walls, before glass windows to stare through. Your ancestors sat through the exact same rain. No screens, no light switch, no dry socks, just hours of grey sky and nowhere to go. And what they did during those wet, trapped hours may have quietly built the very brain you are using to read this sentence. Picture it. A small band of early humans, maybe 20, maybe 30 people, crouched under an overhang of rock. Rain hammering down outside in sheets. Children pressed against their mothers. The fire hissing every time a drop finds its way through the gaps above. There is no task to finish, no mammoth to track, no fruit to gather. The rain has cancelled the entire day's agenda. So what happens to a group of humans when the work stops and the walls close in? Here is where it gets strange. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying the Juhoan people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth whose daily rhythm still resembles that ancient pattern. She noticed something almost nobody expected. During the day, when people had work to do, conversations were short, practical, full of complaints, directions, logistics. But once the light faded, or once bad weather trapped everyone together with nothing to do, the talk changed completely. It turned into story, myth, gossip about people who were not even present, explanations for why the world worked the way it did. Wiesner's research suggested something quietly radical. Idle time, forced togetherness, boredom without escape, might be one of the oldest engines of human storytelling. Not the productive hours, the wasted ones, the rained-out afternoons. Because when your hands have nothing to do, your mind reaches for other minds. And when a whole group's minds reach for each other at once, stories start moving between people like sparks jumping across dry grass. Think about what that means for a moment. The very thing that feels like dead time, useless time, the awkward gap between activities, might be the exact condition that pushed language, myth, and shared meaning to evolve in the first place. Rain did not just soak the ground. It may have soaked ideas out of silence, but storytelling was not the only thing happening under that rock shelter. There is a second, quieter process going on inside every skull in that huddled group. Your brain, when it is not focused on an external task, does not switch off. It switches modes. Neuroscientists call this the default mode network, a set of brain regions that light up specifically when you are doing nothing. Daydreaming, staring at rain, letting your thoughts drift without direction for decades. This drifting was dismissed as mental static, the brain simply idling like a car at a red light. But research has shown the opposite. This idle-seeming state is when the brain reorganizes memory, rehearses future scenarios, and stitches together the loose threads of the day into something coherent. Psychologists Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert ran a famous study tracking people's happiness against what their minds were doing in real time, across thousands of moments in ordinary life. Their findings surprised even them. A wandering mind was, on average, an unhappy mind. People felt worse when their thoughts drifted than when they were absorbed in a task. Notice the tension here. Boredom feels bad in the moment, almost universally. And yet, it is precisely this uncomfortable, restless, understimulated state that seems to force the brain into its most creative, most socially bonding work. The discomfort is not a malfunction. It is a pressure valve. It pushes you toward other people, toward stories, toward meaning. Because standing still with your own thoughts turns out to be one of the hardest things a human brain is asked to do. Now step back into that ancient shelter one more time. The rain has not stopped. The children are restless. Someone starts weaving a strip of bark. Someone else begins picking through a pile of stones, checking which ones might sharpen well later. Idle hands rarely stay idle for long, even without a reason. Archaeologists studying tool assemblages have noticed something interesting about rainy season sites specifically. A higher density of half-finished tools, decorative items, and objects with no obvious survival function. Beads made from shell, ochre ground into pigment for no immediate use. Objects that took time, patience, and repetition, but produced nothing you could eat. This is where anthropologist Robin Dunbar's work becomes important. Dunbar spent decades studying primate social groups and proposed that much of human cognition, including our unusually large brains relative to body size, evolved primarily to manage social relationships rather than physical survival tasks. Grooming in primates, he observed, is not really about cleanliness. It is about bonding, trust, and social maintenance, delivered through touch and time spent together with nothing urgent to do. Humans, Dunbar argued, replaced physical grooming with something more efficient: conversation, gossip, shared laughter, story. And crucially, these bonding behaviors require exactly the kind of unstructured, forced together time that a rainstorm creates. You cannot bond deeply with someone while sprinting after prey. You bond during the pause, during the wait, during the rain. So the picture starts to come together. A storm rolls in. Work stops. A group of humans is packed into a small dry space with nothing productive to do. Boredom sets in, uncomfortable and restless. That discomfort pushes minds outward, toward each other, towards story, towards small useless crafts that somehow matter anyway. Bonds strengthen. Myths form. Children absorb a group's history not from lessons, but from half-listened stories told beside a fire while rain drums on stone above them. Here is the counterintuitive twist. None of this was designed. No ancient human decided that rainy days should build social cohesion and creative thought. It emerged, almost as a side effect, from a species that could not simply switch its brain off when its hands ran out of work. Where other animals might sleep through a storm and wake when it passes, human minds kept running, kept reaching, kept needing something to hold onto. And what they reached for, generation after generation, became culture itself. Consider how strange this is when you sit with it. The very feeling you are trying to escape right now, the itch of having nothing to do, the twitch that sends your thumb to your phone, is the same feeling that once built language, myth, art, and social trust in a species that had barely learned to control fire. Boredom was never empty. It was a workshop disguised as an inconvenience. Now think about your rainy afternoon again. Your phone offers something ancient humans never had: an instant, bottomless substitute for the discomfort of stillness. A way to feel occupied without ever reaching that uncomfortable threshold where your mind used to turn outward toward other people or inward toward genuine reflection. The scroll fills the exact gap that once forced storytelling into existence, but it fills it with fragments instead of connection. This does not mean the phone is the enemy. It means the discomfort you feel on a slow, rainy day is not a flaw in you. It is a very old signal, inherited from ancestors who felt the same restlessness under the same grey sky, and who let that restlessness pull them toward each other instead of away. Their boredom built stories that outlived them by tens of thousands of years. Yours, if you let it sit for even a few uninterrupted minutes, might still be capable of something similar. So the next time the rain traps you indoors, and your thumb starts drifting toward the screen out of habit, pause for a moment before you scroll. Let the restlessness sit a little longer than usual. Notice where your mind wants to go on its own without a feed to steer it. That itch you feel is not new. It is one of the oldest sensations your species carries, and it was never a punishment. It was an invitation, whispered through thousands of generations of rained-out afternoons, to turn toward another mind and simply begin. Once long ago, on a day exactly like this one,